Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Finance and Safety Committee meeting of Tuesday, September 4th, 2018. The first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion second for approval? Moved by Bueller, second by Solom. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 2 is public input. If anyone is here to speak about something not on the agenda, now's your chance. See none? Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion second? Moved by Vilhauer. Second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 4 is consideration of change order number 2 for the shooting range construction project number 1619 with Rounds Construction in the amount of $205,144.69. So I'll look for motion second for approval. Moved by Danforth, second by Lallam. And Heath, why don't you give us a rundown on this, please?
Absolutely, Mayor. So the item before you this evening at the regular council meeting will be the change order number 2 for the shooting range project. This was discussed last Thursday, of course, in detail regarding the extra work with the grading and berm work for the 200, 300-yard shooting bays. And this quote that we received from the contractor also includes all the structure work, the shooting structures, the shade canopy structure, I guess you could call it, that the shooting benches will be installed into, and then also the other obstruction structures that get placed down the range to prevent any errant bullets from going where they shouldn't be going. So this is an all-inclusive quote that we got from the contractor based on current bid line items and pricing. There was a little bit of an increase in cost for the structures because of the material costs that went up since we originally quoted the original work on the project. Overall, as Colin and I discussed last week, it does run the project over $50,000 to $75,000, but we were comfortable in supplementing that excess funds out of the project cost savings out of other current projects out of this fiscal year, which we've also ran by Kristen as well. So we'd recommend approval of this, and we could get the contractor going on the work and the ordering of the materials, which do have a good few-week lead time to get those materials for the structures.
All right, thank you. I want to point out the staff worked really hard to get this in a timely fashion. That was a lot of work and legwork and phone calls, so good job, and this is a good deal. All right. Councilman Lallam?
Heath, what is our time frame to completion? I know we said October at the last meeting. Do we have a tentative date on that?
In our recent discussions with the contractor did indicate that he could have all this done by October 31st. We anticipate that that's the new completion date that we would incorporate with this change order. And we haven't heard anything to the contrary. And of course, if you ran into any other material order issues or things like that, it would cause delay or any unforeseen things like that. Otherwise, he was pretty confident he could have the work done by October 31st. And he, too, had interest in seeing this open before to give a couple weeks leeway before the hunting season so that people could make use of it before then.
That'd be great.
Can I grab a quick question, Mayor? Are we going to post rules for how you operate out there? Is that the intention, to put some signage or something up that shows?
Yes, great question. Absolutely. We intend to order some signs in-house. We have some examples from Game Fish and Parks that if you utilize at other facilities like this, that we would kind of have some housekeeping rules on there as far as, cleaning up after yourselves, some safety rules as far as how to operate and utilize the range without, being a hazard to other users of the range. Some of that we still have to get the fine details ironed out yet, but there even be protocol too as far as going down range to check your paper and things like that when shooting targets in relation to other people utilizing the range. There's obviously a safety protocol there in place that we would have signage for as well.
I have one other question. Is there any intention or any thought given to like a security camera setup of some sort out there so you could kind of keep tabs on the place?
That's a good question. I don't know, Colin, has that been discussed at all in the process of this, the progression of this project with the state or anybody else for that matter?
You know, or if nothing else, make it look like you're checking it out once in a while, you know? Put a fake camera up in there, you know?
I think the idea behind that, I guess no discussion on security cameras that I'm aware of. I think the whole idea was that it's close enough to that road, a main road that a lot of people use now, that it's going to be kind of self-policed, and that gives us, you know, our police will drive by it occasionally as well, just to make sure. I guess that was the idea.
We'll see how it goes, in other words. Any other comments or questions? Councilman Danforth?
So Heath, the numbers that you shared with us were somewhere in that 50 to 75,000 on a budget shortfall that we have to supplement.
That's correct.
Okay, and that, if I recall, that's in line with what we talked about at our last meeting, correct?
That
it
is
still
correct.
falls in line with that.
Yeah, I shared the $75,000 at the previous meeting. Just to have some contingency built in with this. This hard number brings us about 50 grand over,
Okay,
but with any unknowns that might happen, we always like to build a little bit of contingency in within reason. That's where the 75,000 came from.
Will the original lanes be able to be open before the last two lanes, or is it an all or nothing scenario out there? Do you know?
If the contractor, our intentions, staff intentions were that if the contractor is able to complete this all by October 31st, we were going to just give him the whole site until October 31st. We did have discussions with him regarding that. You know, if it were anticipated that his work was going to run long for some reason, we'd probably do a stop work on the last two, at least get the grading done, and then maybe wait with the structures until a later time and do like a winter shutdown on the structure work, for example. But I don't see the need for that unless something changes drastically on his schedule.
Okay.
Councilman Lallam?
Maybe you guys can answer this. Is there utilities on site, or are we going to have electricity or anything out there?
Go ahead. I'll let you answer that, Colin. I'm not familiar with the utility situation out there.
No,
No electricity out there at all?
there will not be electricity.
Okay.
And it's a pit, toilet, vault toilet.
Right. I saw that. I just didn't know if we were going to be
Yeah.
running any electrical or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that's
It's
a
pretty
good question.
tough to run a security camera or something along, without some sort of, you could do battery, but you'd be out there pretty often changing that. So.
Right. Councilman Bill Howard?
I've got a follow-up question on the budgeting. Okay, we are running over budget somewhat on this, but as I recall, when we budgeted this a year ago, we didn't have the assurance of the 75-25 split with the Game Fish and Parks, as I recall. I don't think that was quite in place. So we budgeted for this project even without that assurance of that split. So I guess I would contend that, hey, we're well within budget as we now allow for that Game Fish and Parks split on this. Do you recall anybody, or Kristen, or?
That's correct. The only thing that we always have to consider is with a project such as this, the city is paying the full bill up front with the reimbursement. So I think when Heath is referring to the budget, yes, we're going to go over from what we budgeted, but
No,
you are correct with the
I understand.
reimbursement.
I'm just
Yep.
looking at
Yep.
ultimate outlay of dollars. We're still well within where we were looking at this project from the get-go. So I guess I'd just like to make that point. And then secondly, Heath, I know you explained this to us at our meeting last Thursday. For those that didn't catch at that time, explain that the change order now we're 100%. That's 100% coming out of our pocket. As to why the Game Fish and Parks isn't, or any federal dollars are coming into play here. Do you want to have that conversation again for those that might be catching us now and didn't see us last week?
Yes, absolutely. So the Game Fish and Parks, we did obviously pursue them to participate in these additional lane costs. My understanding from Colin, who had those very early discussions with them, a couple different gamuts there. One on the design work, they didn't have the time to put in to do the design on the additional work, so we hired the consultant accordingly to do that. And then for the actual construction component of it, Game Fish and Parks was clear that at the federal level, they do not like to add a substantial amount of work such as this to their projects once they've been awarded. And they were, however, very enthusiastic to see the city want to participate with this federally funded project to the extent that we are, to kind of see a well-rounded, comprehensive, all-inclusive, everything but the shotgun range type of a facility to be constructed that was part of the original plans, like we've talked about, to see that come through to fruition with the local funds at 100%. They were ecstatic to see that, and wanted to actually use this as a model project for future communities that get their same grant program funding.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, what would the status be of the shotgun range portion of it? Is that still an option?
Colin can maybe elaborate on that too. I know they had preliminary discussions, and some of the biggest concerns were the proximity to the roadway and the proximity to the river regarding the lead shot use that obviously gets scattered a little differently than a rifle target would. Colin, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, Heath hit that on the head pretty well. The game fish and parks, it was the primary goal is to have a shotgun range out there, and it's still kind of designed that way, but they anticipate a lot smaller shot, which is only available in lead, and like he was saying, that poses a problem with the river right there, and then the ricochet possibility is kind of why, the ultimate reason why it kind of got nixed at the end. I don't know if it's feasible in the future unless we came up with some sort of screening.
No, it was not eliminated because of money. It was eliminated for other factors, design factors. Anything else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Very good. Item number 5 is consideration of change order number 4 for the sanitary sewer replacements project number 1808 with Dunick Inc. in the amount of $8,241.91. And I'll look for a motion second for approval, and then we'll discuss. Moved by Bueller. Second by Albertson. Any discussion? Oh, okay. Discussion. Let Heath tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item is related to the sanitary and sewer improvements project, obviously, and a change order in the amount of $8,200 roughly. And what this does is cover the cost of the contractor to have to mitigate petroleum-contaminated soil that was encountered while excavating the roadway subgrade area on the project. It was anticipated early on when this petroleum-contaminated soil was exposed that there might be some state funding to help assist with the handling and mitigation of that soil. It turns out, because of the very minute level of contamination that the soil contained, it wasn't high enough to be considered contaminated for the state to contribute any funds. So, unfortunately, we do have to pay the total cost with city funds to handle this soil. And this is just the additional cost for the contractor that had to excavate the entire contaminated soil area, had to stockpile it. He had to move that stockpile once while we were waiting to hear back from the state on the conditions of the soil, and then also haul it to the landfill for proper disposal.
Yes, thank you. And this, we did standard operating procedure, which is if you detect the odor of petroleum on a project, you stop work immediately and contact the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. They take over from there and make the determinations. We did everything we were supposed to do. And had this been contaminated to the point that it needed special treatment, they would have paid for that.
Where is the project?
Where is this project? The location, Colin, do you want to?
This is for the 6th Street Southeast project right by Tokyo Grill.
So it's just off of Highway 212. Good questions. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 6 is consideration of change order number 1 for the 3rd Avenue Southwest Reconstruction Project number 1806 with Dunick Inc. in the amount of $3,124.07. Look for a motion and a second for approval. Moved by Wise, second by Lallam. And Heath, you want to tell us about this?
If I could, Mayor, if I could refer to Colin on this one to provide a little bit detailed background.
Yes. This was, right before Heath came, this was decided on kind of in the field that this was probably the best solution. So this actually adds a concrete valley gutter and also converted an existing junction box into a drop inlet. And the reason why this work was, I guess, warranted or wanted in this area is this was where we were putting curb where there was no curb before. And what we noticed in some instances is that it created kind of a low spot because of the new curb on the one side of the road. And to get it over to the other inlet, the one that was converted, we had to put that concrete valley gutter. It just helps facilitate that drainage better, and it's a lot cheaper option than putting a drop inlet where that low spot was.
Any questions or comments? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. What's the status of that project, Colin? Is that being paved?
The
Or-
3rd Avenue project is currently being paved. They did run in some base issues today and late last week. They were working through those. They replaced some of the base, and I know the majority of it has become black as of today.
Okay, good. Glenn?
Colin, as long as you're in the hot seat there, do you know roughly when 21st Street, where we're at as far as that one getting the overlay done on it?
Yeah, and I will kind of apologize for the delay on that one. Just out of necessity, I guess, that got delayed a little bit longer than we anticipated. When we took over one of the properties along there from the assisted living building that burned down, the water service for that was never cut off. And so we were waiting on a contractor to be able to get in there, cut the service line off, and we didn't want to do that after we paved it. So we wanted to get the patchwork in there before. The contractor is officially complete with that project now. We're just waiting on Dunnick to come back and pave it. So I would assume within the next week was the preliminary schedule. So by mid next week, hopefully.
All right, item 6 is old business. Is there any old business? Councilman Danforth.
Mayor, at our last meeting, we were, and I apologize for not knowing the lady's name, but we were visited and spoke to again about the paving of the road between Evolution Sports and Sheehan's, that section we've addressed umpteen times. Using that as a point of reference, we have a number of different places within our community that have the same instance, and some are in residential areas, some are in commercial areas. And I think we've had discussions about this over time since I've been on the council. We've allocated dollars within the budget to get some of this work completed if it was so deemed that we wanted to do that. I think we need to take a real hard look at these things and make a decision on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I think to drag these things out is it's really unfair for everybody. It's unfair for those that are in those areas. It's unfair for staff to have to deal with those and not know exactly where we're at. It's unfair for council members to be addressed in a manner that it seems like a person may want or not want to do something when there's really 10 of us that have a voice in that, in a vote. I think we need to identify every area within our city proper here that has that situation and break it down to residential versus commercial, and we need to come up with a plan. We need to come up with a strategy of what we're going to do. And even if in the end our answer is nothing, then we will have made a decision.
We started that a
We did.
number
We
of
just
years
have
ago.
never gotten to it, Mayor. We just,
Well, no, we got to it. I mapped out all the
Yeah.
gravel roads in town, and I did an estimate of what it
Right.
would cost to pave them, and I had them identified as whether they were residential, and I thought at that time the council decided, due to the fact that some people have paid to pave their roads, that it would be inappropriate to use taxpayer dollars to pave a road next to somebody who had not paid to pave their road.
that's the hurdle we have.
So, right, and that's the general hurdle that comes up over and over again. But you are a new council. If you want to revisit that, we certainly
I
can.
just think, I think the data, we've had the conversation, I don't know if I've ever actually seen any mapping,
I can update it.
and
but
I
I'm
know
sure
I
I'll
haven't
find
heard any overall costs on it, but we need to come up with something. I don't blame the lady that was here
it.
for
It
her
was a couple
frustration.
$1 million, like, what was that, about 2008?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Yeah. Well, I know it's since I've been on council. I know that, and I came on in 10, I think. So, I just think
can
we
bring
need
that
to be
back.
able to look at it and make logical, good decisions of what we're doing. And I agree with the argument of that person had to pay for the road and these people didn't. And we got to figure out how we get over that. It's either that we then go through an assessment project and get it done, or something. But we have to get that behind us. We've got the Mayfield or Mayfair
Maybe
little section up north too. That's been the same problem.
North Lake Drive edition.
There's a number of them, and it's like we deal with them and we deal with the frustrations. We've got to do something. We seem to be treading water, and I think we need to get the data in front of us, and we need to get decisions made. And there's going to be agreement and disagreement what that solution is, but we have to come to a consensus of what our direction is going to be, and then put a plan in place. If that means we're moving forward with something, or if we're not, then we need to put a stake in the ground and say we're not. And then we go through the assessment process. I don't know what else to do. These are the faults of decades-old problems and things that haven't happened. So how to fix them now is the challenge, and do it fairly to the
Right.
taxpayer. So that's under old business. We need to resurrect some effort, in my opinion.
Okay.
Mayor,
Councilman
might.
Bueller?
I absolutely recall that we did we did a map. We requested a prioritization of all of those types of areas throughout the community. 12th Street over south of LATI is one of them. But the fact that we budgeted monies so that we could work on some of these roads. Some of these, they're perpetual. I mean, they're never the landowners are never going to change their mind. It's not going to come around. So we're going to have these voids, and I think the idea was to prioritize those 5 or 6 streets that we wanted to start to work on, as I recall, because we've had this conversation 5 times. And I personally, my belief is that some of these we got to bite the bullet. I've said this before. We budgeted those monies for those projects, and I think we need to move forward on some of them because they're not going to change. We're going to have these crummy little roads, gravel roads in the middle of our city that need to be
Right.
replaced.
And it seems like, I could be wrong, but like we budgeted $400,000, and the actual cost to do all of them would have been many millions. So we weren't going to be able to do all of them with that amount of money. Right. And so which ones do you do? And that's the big question. But we can certainly refresh that. I'll point you guys to where the stuff is.
Because I do remember I think you made that map.
Yeah. Councilman Vilhauer?
I've got a couple questions, I guess would be old business that I'm going to direct to you, Kristen. Our audit is now done by William Neal firm, is that correct? Are we going to get Troy here or somebody here from the firm to give us a brief update or review or summarization on that?
That's correct. I actually have just asked Troy when he would be available, and I asked him for the next meeting in September. Okay. So.
And then along with that, I know the CAFR has been out, the Consolidated Annual Financial Report.
Comprehensive.
Comprehensive. Close. You know, I know we've got that, it's out there, but it'd be helpful if you were to give us a 30,000-foot overview of that, maybe in conjunction with Troy's being here at a meeting, because that is that is a snapshot of our financial, or more than a snapshot, it's pretty detailed financial information that be helpful to,
I can do that. I could bring that forward at the committee, and then Troy could present to the
Sounds
council.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yep.
And that brings something up that I will offer to you. While I was at the PWX, that's the Public Works International Conference last week, I went to some presentations on financial management and how public works functions need to be intimately involved with the financial aspects. And I purchased a primer for public works officials in understanding the financial relationships. And I read it. I spent a lot of hours on the plane and I read it. I read the whole thing. So I can pass that on. It's really good. It's a basic primer, explains the CAFR, and it explains bonding and all that kind of good stuff at a for people like us that aren't people like Kristen. So I would suggest, if you want to sign up to read that, I'll let Jana hold it and you can check it out. So that was good. What else do we have? Anything else on old business? How about new business? Councilman Danforth?
Mayor, I'd just like to bring up something that it's really an awareness issue. We have, throughout the community, we have our clear view triangles at each one of our intersections, and quite honest, I'm not really sure. I know they used to be 15 feet, and it seemed like we had increased them, but to 25, I believe, or something. But nonetheless, the one thing that I notice, and with a lot of good intentions within the residential areas, we have people that are landscaping these corners, and when that landscaping grows, we're really taking away the view at the corner. And there's a number of them around that are that way. And if I'm driving in my 3/4 ton pickup, I don't have a problem. If I drive in my car and the growth is 4 feet high or 5 feet high, it's problematic. You can't see. And so that clear view triangle really needs to be completely remiss of anything other than any utilities or something. We do have a number of areas where there's tree overgrowth that comes into that area. And then we have, again, like I said, I know the intentions are good, but we have got to remind people, and we need to enforce that clear view triangle. It's not just structures.
Right. And it's more than just remind, it's educate.
Yep.
We should do some education, but if you have a specific site that you want to report, we can take care of that within the staff, because it is a requirement by ordinance to keep that clear. So we can deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Yep. I just see it where
they would rather deal with it before there's an
it's too
accident
far
or something.
Yep. And the reason why I bring it up is just to let people know that clear view triangle just isn't about structures.
Right.
It's about
visibility. So
visibility altogether.
Visibility.
And I know the intentions are good, but they've got to put themselves back into the position of understanding why we have that clear view triangle. And so I do have some that I have seen, and that's just what brought my attention to this, that we just need to somehow get that message out, or reminder out to people that area is off premise or off guard, or sort being able to do that type of thing. I know there was something actually in the paper here a week or two ago, somebody had done something, a picture in there that shows the exact same problem I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. They've done something to try to make the corner look nice, and it does, but it's problematic.
Right.
So.
And that would fall under the building services code enforcement official. So you talk to Ken, or you can just let me know the addresses, and I can take care of that. Councilman Vilhar?
I'm going to bring it up under new business. We actually discussed this, 6-8 weeks ago, somewhere thereabouts. I think we're all in agreement that I'm talking about the Home Rule Charter review. You know, we had discussed that at some meetings in your office, Mayor, and then we discussed it at either a committee meeting or an actual council meeting. That with that review coming up next year, we thought it'd be a good idea to have us as a group, along with the key staff, to look at kind of a pre-review this fall to kick around some ideas, some suggestions that we could then hand off to the actual committee that's put in place come the first of the year. We're to that point now. I was kind of waiting on this until after we get the budget work put together. That now would be the time that we start looking at that. I'm suggesting that we do that as part of our committee meetings, starting in the very near future now. And along with that, we also are looking at needing to make some ordinance revisions that tie into the Home Rule Charter review. I think, Matt, you've already done some of that. In fact, we probably could have discussed that somewhat tonight, but I said let's just put this on hold until we're kind of all on the same page. So that's going to come before us too, some ordinance revisions that we need to look at making as part of what we're doing as far as reviewing our Home Rule Charter. So I just wanted to alert the public, the group up here that we will begin that work. And I guess I'd probably invite maybe some feedback from some members as far as ideas or some kind of a game plan as we head into this, so we're not spinning our wheels or wasting our time. And I think some of that might actually include reaching out to other communities out there to see how they go about doing certain things. So I just want to bring that to the table, that we will be discussing that here between now and the end of the year at hopefully committee meetings in the future.
Very good. Yes, it's time to start thinking about that, because if we're going to make ordinance changes, we do need to jump right on that so we can get something on the next agenda. Anything else for new business? All right. The next item on the agenda is executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, and we will have an executive session this evening in order to discuss and consult with legal counsel on contractual matters, and we do not expect to take any action when we come out. I'll even do it now. I mean, you guys are all here, and we have a little extra time, so maybe we can leave the council meeting tonight at an earlier time. So, yeah. So, I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Wise, second by Councilman Vilhauer. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries, and we are in executive session.